Hi, and welcome to Autism Talk TV, episode 11?
No,
12.
It's 12.
Hi, and welcome to Autism Talk TV, episode 12. I'm Jack Robeson.
And I'm Alex Plank. Today we're speaking with Elaine Hall, who founded the Miracle Project in Los Angeles and wrote the book Now I See the Moon. So let's go to the clip.
Hi, I'm Elaine Hall. I'm the director and founder of the Miracle Project and the author of Now I See the Moon. I got involved in autism by miraculous events. I adopted a little boy from Russia when he was 23 months old. And when he came to me, he did a lot of interesting behaviors. He spun in circles. He stared at his hand for hours at a time. He banged cabinets, but this was 14 years ago. Today, those kind of behaviors, you would think, oh, that child may have autism. But 14 years ago, people didn't know from autism. And I learned from my son what autism was. And that's how I originally became involved. And through my work with him, traditional therapies were not working for him. If he was flapping his hands, the therapist would say, quiet hands, and he'd go like this. And they would say, no, hands down. And I would think, well, that's kind of right, quiet hands, to put your hands over your ears. And the therapist and I disagreed on some things, but I didn't know from autism. I was an acting coach and film coach for film and television. And I worked with kids that were in feature films and on TV shows, and I didn't really have an understanding of autism. So I had to learn about it. And there was a doctor in Maryland, Dr. Stanley Greenspan, who was approaching working with kids with autism in a different way. He talked about joining a child's world and being part of their world and seeing from their perspective. That felt really right to me, and that's really where my journey with autism began. I was in the acting field, and when I mentioned that traditional therapists really were not working for my son, I went to what I knew best, which is creativity and the arts and theater people, and I asked them to join me with joining my son. For example, if he needed to flap his hands, I would flap with him and we'd turn it into birds and we'd be flying around and connecting in that way. And if he was opening and closing cabinets, then I would hide behind the cabinet and turn into peekaboo. And if he needed to bang on things, we would be drumming together. And I was seeing what he was interested in and then becoming part of that. And traditional therapists thought that I was kind of a Looney Tunes, but my actor friends really got it. And so they worked with me to be with my son. My son was severely autistic at a time and very isolated. So we went into his world. And I think creative people, actors, musicians, dancers, singers, they naturally think outside the box. They don't know what a box is. So it was very easy for them to understand my son Neil without judging him, without wanting to cure or fix or anything like that. They just enjoyed connecting with him. And as a result of that connection, Neil slowly started to emerge into our world and became very much a part of our world, and was able to go back to school with a one-on-one aide. And it was time for me to go back to work, and I didn't want to go back in the film business at that time. The hours were long, and I prayed about it, and I asked for guidance of what I needed to do to make a living. And I got a real strong voice that said, teach children singing and dancing and acting in a group situation, teach children with special needs. And I started a program called the Miracle Project, and that's what I started doing. I started the Miracle Project my first year from a grant, And what we did is we got actors, singers, dancers, musicians, and I did an intensive training with them for 16 hours, not all at once, 4 hours at a time, an intensive training to teach them to understand autism and sensory processing and speech and language, and just really understanding themselves, coming from a place of love and acceptance and understanding. And we created a musical with kids with autism and their typically developing siblings and peers. And a group of filmmakers who were endorsed by, at the time, Cure Autism Now, and they loved what we were doing, and they asked if they could document a whole season from beginning to end. And they did. They came and they documented all of us learning with kids with autism and their siblings, their families, and filmed for 6 months our program, and then edited it and turned it into what became Autism the Musical, which documents the Miracle Project. And it's an HBO 2-time Emmy Award-winning film now. And I think it's helped, as someone said, it makes autism a household word, so that people, someone said to me the other day, "You brought autism out of the closet." I'm like, I didn't know it was in the closet, but I'm glad I did. My view of autism has drastically changed since, talking 14 years ago. When my son first got the diagnosis of autism, I didn't know from autism. And I have to be honest, I was really scared. I didn't know. I got sad at first. And what I realized was that I was grieving not my son, because my son was this beautiful, incredible spirit in front of me. I was grieving my image, my view of what my life should look like. And what has happened as a result of really being with autism, first my son, and then through the Miracle Project, hundreds of kids, and now my friends who have autism, I've been privileged to enjoy the world of autism, and there is no I and thou. It's just we. There's so many similarities. It's just it's taught me to be accepting and loving and courageous, and to advocate for people who can't always speak for themselves. My son is nonverbal and has learned to type and use sign language, and I'm very committed to helping the world perceive kids who process differently in a more compassionate way. So it's being around autistics is definitely the greatest gift of my life.
Wow, that was a great interview by Elaine Hall, don't you think, Jack?
Yes.
And if you haven't seen Autism the Musical, I really recommend watching it. It was a great documentary that was shown on HBO and won 2 Emmys.
And her book, Now I See the Moon, is available in bookstores everywhere, including the one in Hadley, Massachusetts, called Barnes & Noble.
I think that's priceless.
That's probably as good as it's going to get.